Hello, Nathanial Bibby here from Bibby Consulting Group. Welcome to the webinar about LinkedIn strategies. I'm going to delve straight into the content today. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a social media speaker, been in the digital marketing industry for 12 years now, and we specialize in LinkedIn lead generation campaigns and training for business owners. And I'm going to talk to you today about the shift that's happening in the digital world at the moment. As most of you are probably aware, there's been a huge transformation from the days of search engine optimization and even Google AdWords to some extent, moving more so towards social media and engaging. And we found that LinkedIn is actually one of the most popular places for people to connect with other business professionals and build relationships and network online and to just leverage off their existing connections. So we can do things like build quality networks of 5,000 plus prospects, position you as an industry leader and boost your online presence quite substantially. So I'm going to go through like some practical outcomes. My goal today is to give you as much value as humanly possible. But before I get stuck into that, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the evolution of marketing and how we got to where we are today. And it all started really when I started my career 12 years ago when I could get to the first page of Google, and sure enough, to get 10 leads a day, and it was a real estate business I was involved in at the time. And these days those sort of things aren't as effective. So look at the billboard here, 2014, 99% of people still market like it's 2004. These days things are evolving so quickly that the guys that are coming out of university degrees that are old hats, so the people that know what's going on are only the ones that are actually in the industry and have campaigns running. You want to be looking for social media marketing professionals that practice what they preach. Okay, so if somebody's doing Facebook advertising, you want to ask them what their budget is on Facebook advertising. So LinkedIn lead generation is something that's quite rare. We're the only company in Australia that's doing it, and I'm fascinated by how we get stuck as marketers, because if you think about it, the fact that these marketing experts are still doing direct mail, printing, even email marketing, all these things really are so competitive, and there's so much noise, and the buyers are so used to receiving stuff that they just turn off to it. And we have to stay ahead of the eight ball. It's the only way to succeed in marketing. It's one thing I learned very early on in my career was that, just because SEO was working 12 years ago, I had to adapt. When it wasn't as effective, because when I got recruited and headhunted to a company in Hong Kong, the same strategy didn't work anymore, and we had to adapt, and we evolved into things like Google advertising and later on remarketing and different other strategies. And when social media came along, it was pretty obvious to me that LinkedIn was the place to focus my efforts. And since I've started playing around on LinkedIn, I think we had about 3 million the first time I started doing training, and we're now at 7.2 million members in Australia, which is quite profound. So we've really got to be aware that this isn't going to be around in a year's time, 18 months time. I think LinkedIn will monetize how easy it is to connect with people. So you want to look at building your social database, build your network now while you can.
Your website to the top of Google, because it just won't be as effective. You can pull a lot of resources into it, and at the end of the day, it's not going to work, and there's too much competition. But also what's happening with Google is because social media sites have got so much activity on them, is that it's actually becoming a search engine for social media websites. And like you'll know if you've ever Googled your name, that generally the first thing that shows up is a social media site, and most likely LinkedIn. So these days, marketers have to be a storyteller, and no different for business owners who are doing their own marketing. So what I want to discuss with you today is how you can leverage technology to tell that story better and not have it suck all of your money, resources, and time out of your day. So my number one goal today is to add as much value as possible. I do this because I believe in the business practice of adding value to people in my network, my sphere, and I find that it comes back in numerous ways. And I'd encourage you all to look at it as very much the same when you're telling your stories online, and to try and provide value to your customers. Connect with what their frustrations might be, and learn about your customers and bring them ideas and concepts that will help them on their journey and their path to success. So first of all, you need to get your attention of your clients, and no different to the picture of Times Square, New York here. The digital environment is littered with advertising and lots of different things that can shiny objects that can take people's distraction away from what they're doing. You want to try and cut that aside and do something a little bit different, and which is exciting because it actually means you don't have to spend money on things like Google advertising, cost per click, cost per acquisition, that kind of thing. So if you come to it with a new energy and be, just charged to basically try things a bit differently, you'll find that it will get effective results. Now, the market is completely changing. Like this little fella here, growing up, learning on an iPad, over 50% of people using LinkedIn are now doing so on a mobile device. So you can imagine the implications that that's going to have to the way you post content, the way you engage with people. No longer is a long sales letter going to be effective. If you're messaging a prospect on LinkedIn, you want to keep it short, succinct, and be able to just convert it into a telephone call as quickly as possible, or even a meeting. If they're on their phone, they'll be able to click to call. So make sure that you have a phone number in there and make sure that it is designed so it's clickable. So some things to be mindful of. So before we get down into the strategy, it's important just to identify what, I guess, not to do. So it can be quite confusing out there. I know if any of you have ever spoken to 3 or 4 marketing consultants to try and nail down a strategy, all the different things that have come across your desk. And the reason being is the education system across the world, really, but more so in Australia, is not designed to educate the marketing graduates on digital marketing. A lot of the content that they get, I've heard, is from Google itself, which lends itself towards content that has been online for 1 or 2 years. So by the time the graduates are coming into the workforce, they're sort of 6-7 years behind, not to mention all of the people that start businesses without a marketing degree. So really, the only people that are qualified to give advice in marketing are the ones that are actually practicing what they preach, and testing and measuring what they're doing. So I'd definitely encourage you to make sure that you find out any marketing provider that you're talking to, exactly what they're doing in the marketplace, because if they're not putting their own money into it, then the chances are they probably don't know what they're doing. This is a graphic of all of the different ways that we can market, and so often I find that people come and say, "Hey, what about this platform? It's great, does this, and that." And really, you can divert your strategy into all different directions and dilute it while doing so. So, where's the return on investment? So, I'm a big believer in social media, as you would all know, and what I'm not a believer in, though, is if you're using comments and expecting that that's going to be a good indication as to whether or not your campaigns are successful. So I want to start a campaign with direct return on investment. How many leads have we got generated? What's the cost per lead? What's the quality of the lead like? And then once we've done that, then we can look at doing things like posting content, getting likes and comments and things like that to leverage that return on investment. But until we've actually got some figures coming in, I don't want to be spreading our resources too thin. So the reason that I think that because the professionals on the planet are actually on the platform, and that's only set to increase. I would say that's about 95% of the white collar workforce in this country at the moment are on LinkedIn, and they're all wondering, much the same as a lot of you are, no doubt, how to use it effectively to grow their business. So what we want to do is take advantage of that and help others connect and engage. We want to add value. The businesses that will thrive are the ones that really are adding value to their network and are good at what they do. So B2B buyers in particular will use social media in many ways to make a purchase decision. There's a big shift towards team buying these days. There's a good example is a client who wanted to target a quite prestigious travel company online, and had to target 7 or 8 key decision makers in order to get like a really outstanding result. And whereas before it might be 1 or 2 people involved. So you can do that quite effectively through social media. And a lot of it's subtle. Like, I mean, if you prompt someone with a message once, but then you're posting content and things like that, and then accept a connection request, it's almost this, back and forth going on where they're actually accepting the fact that you're in their network now and you do have a relationship. And a lot of this can be automated or at least outsourced. 74% use LinkedIn as a guide when you're making purchasing decisions, and the buyers do lead the way. What's actually happening on LinkedIn now is that, like, if for example, I'm looking for an accountant, what I'll actually do is hop onto LinkedIn and search for who I know is in my network that's already, whether or not somebody I want to do business with. So at this point, I might actually hop on to LinkedIn. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat box to see if there's any questions coming through. Oh, yeah, good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring up LinkedIn because it's quite fun to do some live stuff in these events. And this is my LinkedIn profile. And what I might actually do is click on the advanced search feature here. A lot of people don't know, would be a good example, what their title might be. So you might click director, for example, and then whether they're current or past, and then you would look at locations, obviously Australia, postal code might be 3000, for example. 1,000 people that are within my network that are directors of accountancy firms. So what we actually do is go through, and if I'm not connected with them, connect with them. Otherwise, send them a message and find out a bit more about their services. So it does work both ways, from buyer's point of view, but also from a business's point of view. By the way, if anybody's having any technical difficulties, please drop a note in the chat box. Holly is looking after the chat box, so if any questions pop into there, we will try to get to them at the end. Otherwise, we'll be following them up by a phone call, but we will definitely get to all of your questions, so feel free to drop them in the chat box there. In terms of most customers to B2B, like this is released by HubSpot. They've been quite instrumental in releasing facts and figures about how effective social media is. Again, LinkedIn most effective. So what's your objective? Because like I wouldn't want you to start with doing everything. And these are some of the services and things that we would incorporate as part of a campaign. And if you look at the list there, like if we were to look at thought leadership, for example, which is really positioning you as an industry leader, posting content, maybe becoming like a speaker and all that kind of stuff. And you did all that before you even started your lead generation or even you're writing your profile. It would be a bit counterintuitive. So you want to make sure you get them in the right order. So look at building your profile, then look at lead generation, focus on social proof. If you're not sure what social proof is, it's just really evidence that you are present in the marketplace and good at what you do. It's no different to the likes of Urban Spoon, where you get a 5-star rating for a restaurant and people using that as indications as to whether or not it's a good place to go to eat. Same as TripAdvisor, and that's really why Facebook and LinkedIn have become so popular in business. It's because people want to know what your customers are saying, not just what you have to say about your brand. So
So in a perfect world, how many leads would you like to see per month? Go ahead and write that figure down. Quite often some people will want to see 20 leads, and eventually once they see the return on investment demonstrated, they'll want to replace their other forms of lead generation as well. And there's really no limit to what you can scale up to on LinkedIn. And so also write down which industries you'd like to be dealing with, not the ones that you are dealing with, but the ones that you'd like to be moving towards. And if you're in a position where you're employed and you would like to work for another company, then maybe jot down some names and ideas of who you'd like to work for. And there's nothing that says that it's more effective to target easier objectives generally than the likes of, say, the CEO of a bank is just as likely to respond as a bricklayer or whatever. We find the conversion rates are pretty standard across the board, but you want to start with the profile, get the profile optimized, then you look at the lead generation, and then you look at thought leadership later on. These guys, we are video client of ours and close business partners. We actually get them to do our video. They experienced double their sales revenue in the first 30 days and 100 leads in a campaign that generally would receive a minimum of 20 leads. We would guarantee that amount. So what we actually did there was we targeted financial services companies, and we contacted the directors and we connected with them and engaged with them. And the message said something like, "Hi, we've had a look at your LinkedIn profile, and given that you're in the financial services industry, we think there could be a good fit with what we do with We Are Video and improving conversion rates online and building your reputation and that kind of thing," which does lend itself well to tying in with your LinkedIn profile. So that's an example of how you can actually go through that three-pronged approach where you're finding, connecting, and engaging before you move on to an offline discussion. So that's a prime example of how that works. And there's a case study that on my LinkedIn publisher page. So if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see the case study outlining all of the details and metrics and the actual step-by-step process that we went to get that result, which we were very pleased about.
So I'm going to give you some key outcomes because, as I said, I want to deliver some value. So the first thing that you need to do before you do anything and build your network or engage is make sure that you identify what your network is worth. So as you say, your network is your net worth. And your personal brand really is your point of difference in the marketplace. And it's not just your company brand, it's also your personal brand, because let's not forget it's people-to-people marketing. For those of you that are into hip hop, this is Jay-Z, and he says, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." It really does ring true, because you are your business, and even if you are working for somebody else, your network is a real big social asset for where you take it in the future. So if you can build your digital asset up now, where you're building this social database on LinkedIn, it really is going to be quite effective. So you start looking at your personal branding as a business, and building your network and building your reputation and that kind of thing. I don't believe that in a year or 18 months time it'll be as easy to connect with people on LinkedIn without having to pay for it or with some limitations. The trend that we're seeing is now they're limiting the number of searches you can do. You have to upgrade before you can view over 100 profiles, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so aim for 100% profile completeness. This is pretty self-explanatory. A couple of people are asking in the chat box if I will provide the slides afterwards. This webinar will be recorded, so you will be able to access the recording and revisit some of these key points. Build your profile with customer-centric view. So word things in the way of that they describe the benefits to the customer. Add rich content, videos. Again, I'd suggest talking to a company like We Are Video or something like that to get some video content if you haven't got some already. Okay, I know I'm firing through it, guys. We're just limited with time, and I want to make sure you get as much value as possible. So you always go back to the recording if need be. But step 2, so build your network. Use that advanced search feature, which I just showed you then. And you'll be able to really hone in on your target audience and get a very specific search result. And you want to focus on building relationships. It's not about just smashing people with calls to action. It doesn't work. You want to be adding value, doing things like sending them information that might help their business. And then the occasional call to action's fine. So build a reputation as an industry leader and build relationships. So it doesn't actually matter to me, how many connections you have. I'd much rather have a network of 300 or 400 people that I've got a really close relationship with than 20,000 people who barely know me from a bar of soap. Okay, Okay, so this is a 3-step strategy, and we can measure the progress along the way. So when you find people in your target demographic, you send them customized connection requests, you personalize it a bit, explain why you want to connect. Then you send targeted invitations to join your network, and you can measure the number of people that accept. You might get 50%, you might get 70%, might only get 10%, in which case probably something that needs to be updated on your profile. And then you engage number of leads. So going back to that number that you wrote down before, if you are in this for lead generation, if you write down 20 leads, let's assume that, conservatively, you only get a 10% conversion rate from connect to engage. That means that it's pretty safe to assume that you need to have 200 new connections per month in order to achieve that result, which might sound like a lot, but it's only really 10 a day. So if you are able to spend 20 minutes on LinkedIn per day, you can achieve the 20 lead outcome that you're after. Just want to reiterate the way that LinkedIn works in terms of your network. So obviously that's you up in the top left-hand corner, and you're visible to you in the search results, and you're visible to them. And you can see some of the third degree connections depending on what membership you have with LinkedIn. And another very fast way to get exposure to people is by joining groups. To get access to a target market, let's say if you wanted to contact media professionals, would be to join the media professionals group as a first stop, and then you should have thousands of people that you can have access to. And you can see that as you build your network in a particular niche, that the benefits just snowball. Okay, so successful marketers on social media never forget the number one rule. So I bet you all know what this is already. It's not about you. So essentially, we have to get into the minds of the customer. And if you're interrupting somebody with a message on LinkedIn, the last thing you want to do is say, "Hey, I'm a marketing professional. We're doing this websites this month. Mobile sites are at discount. Blah 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 blah. We get people to the number one on Google, etc., etc., etc." As we all know, that when we get these messages, we tend to ignore them. So what you want to focus on doing is not actually talking about yourself, and look at things that you might be able to mention about your target audience's profile that you may have in common. And if I looked at your LinkedIn profile, I'm quite interested in what you do. Let's connect. Groups, if you're a member of the same group, it's about 65% more chance that they will engage with you on LinkedIn. Companies that you're following, education, people that went to the same university, school as you. So leadership, step 4. Okay, so these statistics are what happens when a ad on LinkedIn drives traffic to a landing page. So somebody sees an ad on, say, Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, clicks on it, goes through to a one-page website with a call to action, and then that website will convert at these percentages here. So visitors to inquiry, and that just includes web form inquiries, not telephones. So albeit that the overall conversion rates are quite low, LinkedIn is about 277% higher than Facebook. So it's definitely the most effective, and we wouldn't encourage you to drive traffic to a landing page. We would actually do it on LinkedIn, and that's where you start to see 10 to 35% conversion. These are some of the guys that are doing this thought leadership stuff, and Richard Branson's probably one of the top guys. He gets the most engagement on his posts. Embracing social media isn't just a bit of fun, it's a vital way to communicate, keep your ear to the ground, and improve your business. If you find a few of these thought leaders that you quite enjoy following, and you think your clients might as well, it's actually a lot easier to share their content rather than go creating your own all the time. Again, the CEO of ANZ, CEO of Nike. So you can see that all the major players are starting to embrace social media and start to publish content and start to display their personal brand, whereas before it might have been quite shut off. Okay, so if you were only spend 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn, these are some of the things that I'd suggest that you'd want to be doing. Finding content to share, sending connect requests to people that may have looked at your profile, for example, or people that are in your demographic. look at who liked or commented on posts, send connection requests to people who commented, send intro message to all new connections.
So in 15 minutes per day, these are some of the things that I suggest that you want to be doing in order to leverage off your LinkedIn presence. And in 15 minutes a day, if you do these things, you will start to see some results on LinkedIn. And I'm just bringing up my connections here to show you how you can basically bring up your connections in order of the most recent. So you see how I'm got my connections there in the connections page. And what I'm going to do is organize them by most recent. So I've just selected new there. And I may just want to send that guy a message, his most recent connection, and say, hey, thanks for connecting with me. Here's some information about our company. I'm interested in learning more about what you do. You may even want to suggest a coffee or something like that. But essentially, every time somebody accepts a connection request or requests a connection to you that you accept, you can send them a little introduction message and thank them for joining your network and start building the relationship immediately. This is really something that makes you stand out from the rest of the crowd. And if they're in your target demographic, it makes a lot of sense to do so. So that all of a sudden your LinkedIn network has some substance to it, and you're starting to build relationships and hit people with those touch points. Also, like endorse and recommend. This is all about giving and not getting. There's a reciprocation law of reciprocity on LinkedIn and social media, where the more you do and add value, the more that you get in return. And that's one of the reasons why we're on the call. LinkedInsider.com.au online training program that we've created. There's a ton of video content on there, checklists, and we're offering module 1 and 2 for free. So you go ahead and sign up to those. You get a whole lot of benefit out of that. Those 2 modules, building the foundation and standing out from the crowd. And then if you decide to go on to the more advanced modules, then you'll be asked to upgrade at that point, where you'll learn all about lead generation, social selling strategies, and some scripts and templates and things that we've used in the past. So I'd like to encourage you all to go take advantage of that. The other services that we offer as a business, of course, are coaching, one-on-one coaching, but also corporate training. We do a lot of training for different registered training organizations and so on. It's a one-on-one coaching session package there, 3 sessions for $9.90. Also, LinkedIn Insider memberships $297 once you upgrade, and you've got 12 modules of content there. Profile optimizations start from $490, and we've got a 22-step process that we go through to make you stand out from the crowd, show up at the top of the search results, etc., etc. Special offer for just people who are tuning into the webinar today. So you've got 3 coaching sessions. You've got your LinkedIn Insider full membership, profile checklist, and personal branding workbook, and some message scripts, words at work there. So there's a whole ton of value there, and we're only doing it today for $490. So top secret stuff there, just available to people who are on the call. We might keep it open for a few days just for those people that are watching the recording. Take advantage of this. Please do email me directly at nathaniel@bibbyconsultinggroup.com.au, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about LinkedIn or your profile that I can help with, I'll endeavor to get back with them within 7 days with those types of things. Just depends on schedule and where I am in with speaking engagements and so on and so forth. So please bear with me and have some patience there. But I do commit to responding to any inquiries for help that I can give. And again, if you want to take up that special offer, do email me. It's a great opportunity to dip your toe in the water and experience what's possible on LinkedIn with the guys that we've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. And I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. I'd like to thank you all for attending today. I know your time is valuable, and have a fantastic day ahead.